Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to fix a common problem that many of us with garbage lawn equipment have occasionally, where you have a tire. This is off of an old wagon, a wagon you pull behind a garden tractor, and it is off the bead. So in some cases you may be able to get it to reset on the bead and put air in here, but this tire is old. I mean, we're probably 30, 35 or so years old. So it doesn't want to sit on the bead. It's hard. It's dirty. It's got cracks in it. But considering it's just used around the yard, it's not unsafe to put a tube in the tire. But they can be very difficult to actually install. So today I'm going to show you how to do that fairly easily in this video. So the first thing that you want to do is drill a hole in your bench. If you've got a nice wood bench like I do, although mine's really dirty, it's made out of wood, I can drill a hole in it, and it doesn't, make the bench useless for other things, but that hole is going to let me anchor this wheel down. A lot of times when you're doing a tire change on a wheel like this, one of the most difficult parts about it is just getting the wheel to stay still so you can pry the old tire off, so you can pry it back on after you get a tube in it. So what I do is drill a hole in my bench, and then I get a long bolt and some washers, and I just run that right down through the wheel, through the hole in the bottom of my bench here, if I can find that again. But then I use another washer and nut on the bottom side, and that's going to let me anchor this down. And the wheel doesn't have to be totally stationary. Sometimes it's useful if it can't move at all, but just having it fastened semi-securely to the bench is going to make it a lot easier to work on. So I'm going to tighten that down by hand, and then just take a wrench and a socket, ratchet, and give it a little bit of a snug. And you could tighten it down so it's secure to the bench, but for what I'm doing here, this is a lot better than what I was working on before. So once you have it secured to your bench, it makes it a lot easier to pry the tire off the wheel. Kind of like that. And this is one of the more difficult parts. You probably want a couple screwdrivers. Then you can basically start working your way around. If you have a fancier wheel, you might want to put some kind of protection on it to keep it from getting scratched up, but again, this is a wheel off of a 30-year-old wagon, so I don't really care if it gets a little bit marred up. Sometimes once you get it started, you can just muscle it off. There we go. Done the same thing for the underside bead. And see how I really need to pry and pull on it? So this is why having it anchored to the bench makes it a lot easier to do. If this was just loose on the ground, what I just did would have been even more difficult, 10 times more difficult probably. So once it's off, what I'm going to do is just make sure that there's not too much stuff on the bead here. Even though I'm not really sealing this bead against the wheel to hold air pressure, I don't want there to be too much dirt and twigs and other things in there, because once you have the tube in there and it's tight on the wheel, it's really hard to get that stuff out. So you can clean the wheel up too in here. I don't really care so much for that. I can do that later, but again, I want this bead to be relatively clean on both sides. Now I've got a tire tube here, and these come in different sizes. This is an 8-inch tube because I've got an 8-inch wheel here. You can get them in 4-inch, you can get them in 6-inch, depending on what size your wheel is. So another thing that I always want to do, because I've been burned by this a couple of times, is I want to make sure this thing holds air before I install it. Because I've had a couple of these where I've gotten them in the wheel and what do you know, they don't hold air. Then you have to start all over again. Yep, so you can see there, well, that's going to fit inside here when it's done. So that's perfect, and you know, you got to be careful not to overinflate these too. So this guy holds air. I'm not going to inflate it all the way because it's not inside the tire, so it'd be really easy to overinflate it and spread one of the edges, and then it's useless, and I got to take it all apart again. So now that I know that this holds air, I'm going to go ahead and take the valve core out so I can let all the air out. And then once we have everything installed, I'll put that valve core back in, and we can inflate it. Alright, so first thing I want to do before I put this back together is use some this is just dish soap and water. I'm going to use that to lubricate up the bead of the wheel. And you really can't have too much, but you know, once it's soaked, you're good. Then a lot of times you can just push it back on, or you may need to use your screwdriver again to kind of force it over the edge. And usually this first bead, the inner bead, goes on fairly easy, but the outer bead may fight you. So see, it's all there is to it. And again, it took some effort, but because my wheel is anchored to the bench, it's really not that tough to do. Now I should have done this before I put that back in, but I gotta take my valve stem out because the tube obviously has its own valve stem. So let's get that guy out. So now that I've got the first bead of the tire on, I can put my tube in here. And you know, you gotta be gentle doing this because again, you don't want to tear the tube that you're putting in, because it is a pain to install this and then have it leak. So use a little finesse, and of course you want to have the valve stem on the tube lined up with the hole that it needs to go into on the wheel. So then you go. Get that in the hole, like so. And then we'll just gently work it around the wheel, all the way around. Don't want to rush it. Another, take an extra 30 seconds to get this in there straight. Can make a big difference. Alright, so now we've got our tube in there, and I'm going to soak this side of the wheel. And we'll work this end in. It's okay if you get a little bit of, water inside the wheel. Again, it's just going on a garden tractor trailer, so it's not rocket surgery here. Now as you pry this bead on, you gotta be careful not to damage the tube that you just put in there. Another thing that I like to do at this point is take a pair of vice grips and put them on the wheel. Again, this isn't some fancy wheel on a car or a truck, but what this is going to do is give me a point that the tire can't pop up past. Sometimes you pry up over here and it pops off over on the other side. So by doing it this way, the tire can't pop back up over this edge. And, again, take your time. It's not a race here. See, it would have liked to pop up there, but vice grip's kept it on. And there we go. Take my vice grips off. Give this little spin so that my valve stem's sticking out where I want it. And now before I try to inflate it, I'm going to loosen this off of the bench. Otherwise, inflating the tire will make it so tight against the bench that it could stretch my bolt, it could bend the wheel, you know, I don't know. But it doesn't need to be bolted to the bench anymore at this point, so it's a good time to take it off regardless. Alright, got my bolt off. So there you have it. We've got a little bit of water in there. We've got a tire with a tube in it back on the wheel. Before I try to put air in it, I better put my valve core back in. And it should air right up. Sometimes it's hard to get this valve core to stick out of here since it's just on a tube, so you gotta try and hold it while you inflate things. Use a little more air yet. Alright, that's pretty good. So there you have it. You know, it can be a really tough job if you're trying to do it, you know, on your driveway, on your hands and knees, or on a bench where it's loose. But tightening it down really helps. Using a couple screwdrivers to pry on it, because now you don't need to hold it to get the bead off. But then, you know, when you're going back together, using some vice grips or a C-clamp on the wheel to kind of give, you know, a point where the bead can't pop up, helps you pry the rest of the bead around. And that's really all there is to it. So I hope this video was helpful to you. Please like and subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and have a great day.